I think your hair looks great. I like that we both have this hair and then the black shirts on. So
Yes.
today we're doing a coaching episode.
Yes.
So what's up with you, Miss Sarah? How are you? You look great.
Thank you. I am not doing too great. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to be coached. Well, I think I came up with what I wanted to be coached on, but I'm not sure because I'll always have an idea and then you're like, oh, actually, you find something else. And I'm like, oh,
Are you accusing
and
me of coaching you into whatever's present? Rude. So
yes,
rude. I'm so
I
rude.
know. I know. Because I'll be like, you know what? Actually, really quick, I'm in the conference room at work and I have it reserved, but I'm going to lock the door
Yes.
just
Good
for
idea.
funsies.
I agree.
Okay. So I've been struggling in that, I left a message for you last Monday. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be in real estate anymore. And that's um, challenging. And then this morning I was like, I don't know if I want to have rentals anymore. And so I'm just feeling a little bit,
Yeah, I
yeah.
heard out of everything that you said, I did not hear I don't want to be in real estate. I didn't get that.
Okay.
I'm not saying you didn't say it. I'm just saying that's not
Yeah.
what I got.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we'll write that down. Don't want to be in real estate or have rentals.
Mhm.
Okay, so well, first let's just close our eyes. Let's just do a little mini centering. Just close your eyes.
Okay.
Take a deep breath. Put your shoulders back. Oh, that feels so good. Always, right? Put both feet on the floor and then just allow an intention to float into your awareness just for this call. What's your intention? Well, if you could wave a magic wand and have anything happen, any clarity that you want, what would that look like? The magic wand says, here, it's the end of this call, Sarah, and here's your clarity. Here's what you've been wanting to know. So just allow your intention and that desire to just float into your awareness. Just let it bubble up. And when you get it, just know that whatever you're getting is perfect for you in this moment. There is no other moment other than this moment, and that you're perfectly safe and that everything's okay right now because you're right here and you're safe in this moment right now. That's the proof. We don't need any other proof other than that. In spirit, I ask that you hold Sarah in the palm of your hand and this container lovingly supporting her. I see it lovingly supporting her throughout this next time that we have together today, allowing whatever needs to be cleared, opened, healed, made present, made aware, bring that into the space in a way that she can easily understand, and allow me to step aside and be the conduit for whatever message she needs to hear today for her highest and best, always. So it is. There. Is that better?
It is. And it's a good
It
thing I
always
locked
is.
the door because the
Someone's like,
construction worker's trying to get in. So I need to let the
yeah,
construction worker in and then I might move locations, but
this is the kind
we
of
will just,
this is the
yeah.
kind of podcast we're doing, Sarah. It's a reality
Yes.
show.
Okay. Hi. Okay.
So do
All
you get to
right.
stay in the cute office? Because it's really cute. The background's cute.
It is. It is. Yeah. No, I think I'll stay in here.
Okay, good. Yay.
Yeah.
So my construction workers and your construction workers are telepathically, they're just really wanting to be on air with us. That's all.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. If I have to, I can move to, there's a media room here, but I don't always get the best cell service. So that's why I was like, or the
Okay, well
best.
let's just set the intention that this is where we're going to stay and we'll bring it all the way to completion. Okay, awesome.
Sounds
So
good.
okay,
Okay.
so you don't want to be in real estate. I like that. And or have any rentals. How many rentals do you have right now?
We have 5.
Nice. Okay. Positive cash flow overall.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So it's not a burden financially right now.
No, it's not. But
Okay.
it's, yeah, it is mentally because it's such a small margin that any slight thing that could happen will become a big burden, if that makes sense.
Well, a perceived burden because right now there is no
Yes.
burden.
Yes.
That's why I asked
That's true.
financially.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, that's true.
So you
Okay.
see how, because as you know, the mind goes off into what could happen.
Yeah.
And the truth is, all kinds of stuff can happen. Shit happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, what are you focusing on when it comes to the rentals? Are you focusing more on what could happen as a quote unquote disaster or burden?
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
and what's the perception when you focus on that?
Well, okay, so I'm just like, oh, all I do is dump money into these things so that for some reason I can say I have rental properties, but instead I actually have all these roofs that could go at any moment, or right now I have some challenging renters, and there's a new, this is just kind of what's going through my head. There's a new initiative that just got passed that essentially says people can live in my house for as long as they want without paying rent if it's cold out, things like that. So I start to be like, so what if that happens? And then um what is the meaning of it all? Like, I'm just like,
Yeah, what's the purpose?
exactly.
So you're asking
Like,
yourself,
yeah.
WTF, why the fuck am I doing this? What's the payoff? Right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I get that. So we'll come to that. So what is the reason that you wanted the rentals in the first place?
Initially it was because I thought it would be fun. I mean, if I'm being honest, I was like, oh, this is a cool thing to do. I also wanted to have some type of passive income, and then something for my retirement or later years to be like, okay, I have these properties and rent comes in. And so that was
okay. So grow your wealth. So fun, you thought it would be fun, like to fix them up,
yeah.
do all this stuff, have passive income and grow your wealth. Like,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, great. And has it been any of those things yet?
It has grown our net worth.
Okay, so it's grown your net worth. I put
And
wealth. Can I put wealth or net worth? Which one do you like better?
Wealth is fine. Yeah. Wealth.
Okay, so it's grown your wealth because your bottom line has increased. Passive income, has it grown that at all?
Yes.
Okay. And then has it been fun?
Yeah. A little bit. Not really, but a little bit.
At times. It's been
at times. Fun. Yeah.
Okay. So initially these are your wants, your desires. Fun,
yeah.
Passive income, grow your wealth. And when you thought fun, what did you think that would look like? What were you thinking in your mind way back then when you wanted to start it? What did you think was fun about it?
I thought it would be fun to be able to say, oh, I have 50 doors. So
that's
not
what
the
you
act
thought was
itself.
fun.
I thought it.
Okay, go ahead.
I thought it'd be fun. So the guy I used to work for, he had like about 200 doors, and he would just like drive around and look at his properties and send me notes on like, hey, garbage needs to be picked up here, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that'd be fun. Just drive around and look at my houses. I don't know how else to. I just was kind of like that. That sounds fun.
It wasn't like I would want to own houses so I could fix them all up exactly how I like them, and then I would probably be mad if anyone messed them up. But I always want to remodel something, so I would think that would be my idea. So your idea of fun was driving around checking on you're like you're a real estate you're a big deal VIP.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sarah, big deal.
No, I'm not interested in fixing up the houses or anything.
You're not.
Like that.
Okay, got it.
Just want to look at them.
Okay. Just checking. Just look at that. Let's look at doors. That's what I'm going to say. Oh, the garbage needs to be taken out.
Oh,
so you want to be a boss. I like that. Okay. It's so funny because what one person thinks is fun, another person's like, oh no, please do not give me a remodel. I will shoot myself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to, I don't want to be in real estate, what's up with that? Why did you initially get in real estate?
I initially got into real estate the first time was because in 2008 was because I was like, oh, this looks like fun, and people seem to be making a lot of money. Why am I sitting here at the front desk of the real estate office when I could be out? Like, I opened their checks and I'd see $30,000. I'm like, oh, I should do this. So I was like, that seems like something I could do. So that's why I wanted to do it the first time. And I say the first time because then in 2010, I was like, I was working 3 jobs trying to make real estate work, and I just got into property management. The second time which was 2014 that I got into it when we moved here. It just seemed like a good way to make money.
Mhm.
And I like people, so it just
Mhm.
seemed like something that would work.
So would you say that liking people is part of fun, or would you just say an income in 2014 and people? Which one?
In income.
Income? No, I mean
Post.
not between income and people, but so I'm
Oh,
looking right. So you've got initially you got into it because it seemed fun, and
yeah.
income you're seeing like, wow, I'm making 30,000 a year. I can make 30,000 a check, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So roll
Then
forward
I
to
realized that's not
2014.
how it went, but
Yeah.
yeah, 2014.
Yeah. No, it's not
So what
how it
happened
goes. For
in
everyone, wait, for
2014?
everyone that isn't a real estate agent, that is not how it
That's
goes.
not how it goes. You don't just get a check for $30,000.
No.
Um,
I mean, you get checks for 30,000, but to get that check, it's some
yeah.
serious work. Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Yes.
Okay. Roll forward. 2014 income.
Yeah. Moved here to
Mm-hmm.
Washington, and then Trevor lost his job 2015, and we were like, let's just do it together. And the
Okay.
reason that I felt like I felt like I needed to do real estate, this is
Mm-hmm.
kind of important, is that I thought I had to because um, it's just an interesting thing until Trevor challenged it. Is at the time I had endometriosis really bad. And so there was
Mm-hmm.
like, there'd be like 4 or 5 days a week where I could not work in an office. So my old boss, he was totally cool. He'd let me work from home, and which was great. But I was like, no one will ever do that for me in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I have to do real estate.
Have to. Got it.
Yeah.
And
And
why
so I
real
used to,
estate? What's the have to real estate? What did real estate give you that having a regular job didn't give you? What in your mind? What was the idea?
flexibility, I thought.
Flexibility. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That's most people. Okay.
Yeah. And then Trevor pointed out that, okay, I'm going to turn my phone off. Trevor pointed out at that time, thankfully, after I'd been saying that for a few months, I kept saying, oh, I have to do this. This is the only thing I can do.
Mm-hmm.
He said, what? He just challenged it. He was like, is it that you have to, or you're choosing to do it? And I was like, oh, I guess I am choosing to do it because I like it. Like
Mm-hmm.
this, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of shifted things for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perspective shift, because it's right,
Yeah.
as you know, in my coaching, it's have to versus get to. Most
Yeah.
of us are thinking, well, I have to. If I don't, then I can't pay my bills. But the truth is,
Mm-hmm.
we get to go to work. We get to pay our rent or our mortgage and our car payments. That's a blessing. Some people don't
Yeah.
get to do any of that. So it's like, how
Right.
am I looking at it? As a have to, or I'm the victim of my own life, or I get to and it's
Right.
my choice. So that perspective shift, then you move in and you start doing very well over time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know when I met you, probably
I think
before
you
the
met me in
pandemic,
2018.
2018. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
roll forward, you get into one of my coaching groups.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing what, maybe 1 to 2 transactions a month, one every something like that ish. One
Mm-hmm.
consistently,
Mm-hmm.
one consistently.
Yeah, and I had never really taken any. I had taken like maybe one seller listing before. So Trevor worked with the seller listings because I was like, I don't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the buyer, I just worked with buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, and I
Yeah.
was doing 1 to 2 consistently. Yep.
And then you wanted to move into the list side, the sell side,
Yeah.
and do
Yep.
10 a month. I'll never forget. It was
Yeah.
hilarious. And I read your intake form, your application, and I said, it said goal, and that was the Breakthrough Goal Academy, and it said 10. And I started laughing. I was here by myself. I look at everyone's application to see like who's coachable, right? They have to be a good fit. And I looked and I started laughing because I'm just channeling, and intuitively I looked at it and I went, no. And I wrote down 4 on your paper. I still have it somewhere in one of your files. And I crossed it off and put a smiley face and wrote 4, but I never told you that. And so then we had our initial call before the group started. And I said, so what's your name? 10. And I said, why? What did you say? Something like, sounds like a good number. I don't know, like 10.
Yeah.
I was like, 10? You don't go from 1 to 10. I mean, you can, but most people don't do that.
Right.
And energetically, I could just feel it wasn't a match for your energy. Just from
Yeah.
what you wrote, I could just tap into it. I was like, no. And I started laughing. No, it was a funny, because most people that are achievers pick 10, 100. 1,000,
Right.
100,000, a million. It's like these big numbers, right?
Yeah.
I know I did it myself. $1 million. It's going to solve all my problems, which it didn't solve all my problems.
Right.
But I did it because achievers just go, let me just go for the gold. Right. So you said, anyway, when I did your intake call and we were talking, it said, I said, what, that's not your real number. And you're like, yeah, no, it's not. I said, what's your number? 4. I'm like, yeah, let's do 4. And
like, I knew it.
so 4. So funny. Well, what I do know when I channel anything or when I'm just tapping into what's present is it's in the range of what's more appropriate of whatever it was coming through, which would have been probably like 4 or 5-ish is what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And then in month 2, you did 5, I think 5 or something like that.
More. I think I did like
7
or
was
7.
It 6 or
it was
7?
like, it was
and
wild.
And it freaked you out, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
It freaked you out. And then, which happened to one of my clients, Elsie, and she was like, this is too many. I can't do 5. I'm going to renegotiate. I'm going to take my goal lower. I'm like, no, we're not going lower. It's a new level. Your ceiling has now become your floor. You just got to get used to it, which you did. And then the following year, you were doing you kind of brought it down because you were doing like 7, 8, 9, right? You did hit your 10 at some point that year.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did take 10 in 1 month. Yep. And I sold 9 of them. So pretty good.
Yeah. Great numbers.
Yeah.
So, and that's because of the perspective shift. So, which is great. And why I'm bringing that back up is 1, so people can hear it's doable. And 2, for your own psyche to hear it was all because of a perspective shift. So what you've been talking about, that's why I wanted to get some basics on these 2 things that you're saying, don't want to be in real estate or have rentals, is that do you get the perspective is what is your perspective for whatever is happening inside of you, whatever those are, you're making those 2 things in your life mean. The opportunity here for you, Sarah, is a perspective shift. You've got the deeper work. I've coached you on a lot of deep work.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. And so when you think about this, what's the tie with these 2 and your energy right now, this season of your life, right? Your brother passed last year. That was really challenging. I've had the same. We have that in common. That is not the way they went out, right? Taking their own lives was not easy. It's very, just brings up all the old family dysfunctional shit. And then we get to refeel all the guilt and the codependent nature of the relationships. What could I have done differently? So here's what I will say about that. The blessing of how I worked with that 5 years ago was after a couple weeks of just being pissed and angry and no, this shouldn't have happened. I got to see that if, and you know me, if is not it's one of my no-fly words, but if I didn't go back to my way of who I am, which is there's no accidents, this is a benevolent universe, then it wasn't an accident. He knew what he was doing, and some level, his soul, I don't get to judge that, but I was judging it. And not only bigger than that is I was judging my part in it, that somehow I could have, should have, would have, right?
Yeah.
And so that is, as you can see, as you heal all the parts when it's going through something so tragic, is a perspective shift. It's an energetic shift. It's not just a perspective from the mind, not your brain. There's nothing wrong with your brain. It's the mind. How do I say it? Like unconsciously, spiritually, behaviorally, mentally, it's a shift. And not until we feel it in the body temple, somatically, and start to heal those parts of ourselves that are making us wrong by making it mean something about us, what they did. And that's just part of human behavior. When we do that, then we shift internally, and then externally, we start to see some different results in our lives. We feel better. We want to go back to work, like you returned back to work at some point. So my question for you is, going through all that, because that was last summer, you were in a group with me, thank God, that you were with a lot of supportive people. And is that part of this piece for you?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is, because I think I've just been like, because I stepped out, then I stepped back in. So he died in October, stepped back in really full time. I sold a couple of houses, but really full time again in September. And it's been a challenge. And as
So
it is for everyone
he
right now,
passed last October of 22. And this,
yes,
so you full-time stepped back in just a couple of months ago, this September 23. And it's
correct.
November 23 right now as we're recording this.
Yes. So we're really only
a couple months.
Like as far as like full in, because the summer
back
I
to
was
work, full
just
in,
like every single day
months.
in the office. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just kind of like, what's the meaning of it all?
Right. So that's why I brought up your brother's passing, only because I know, and I went through it. It's just it has us, well, for me, I'll speak for myself. It had me reevaluate fucking everything in every relationship, my work, where I was living, right?
Yes, everything. Everything's up for everything. It's besides my marriage and my daughter. Everything is up for
100%
negotiation. Yeah,
100%. Great. And this is their watershed moments, right? These are watershed moments in our lives. Someone's passing, a divorce, we move, a birth, a marriage, and all the big things. But someone's passing like that, especially in a family that has a lot of codependent behaviors. Let's be nice about it for this call for both of our families. That's why we're laughing. And this podcast is all about codependency and eradicating it, ladies. So that's why Sarah's on here today. You brave soul.
Yep.
So, so you see though, that here's what just comes through as you're sharing. And even before the call, I was getting ready and I was, running behind because just the whole weekend was a whole thing. And I just kept thinking there's something wanting to come through. And all I got was shift. That was the only word I got was shift. I was like, okay, so I just have to go with whatever. And so what I'm feeling, and just from what you're saying and just tapping in, is the shift is for you. It doesn't, and it's whatever, like you said, everything's up for negotiation. So it doesn't mean necessarily, because what happens is when we're not clear, right? Because that's the episode 2 that I did is clarity, right? Clarity, courage, and confidence. When you get clear, because what you think might be the problem, I'm putting that in air quotes, may not be the problem. It may be the way I'm looking at it, how I am with it. As you know, what's my favorite line? How you deal with the issue is the issue. It's never what we fucking think it is. So it may not be real estate. It may not be the rentals. And I know the laws there have changed for some pretty drastic. Anyway, we won't go into that because that's a whole nother, right? Yeah. It's a whole kitty ball of fur, but that it's like that's a big fur ball.
Yes.
And so that adds to, because that's brass tacks. That's actually what's happening that all property owners that have rentals are dealing with. So it's par for the course. There's always going to be some shit happening, right? So shit happens. It's how you deal with
Usually
it.
I'm like, okay, cool. Well, if that happens, then we'll just do something else. But right now I'm just like,
exactly. So internally, there's something that's wanting to be shifted. And this is your opportunity to get clear on what it is that you're desiring more than the quote unquote burden that you see these at. Because what I felt like as you were talking, I wrote down the word burden.
Yes.
So anytime I think something's a burden, my energy towards it is like, okay, I'll go, but fuck, I don't want to. Okay, I'll do it. Right. It's a have to. A burden turns into a major have to.
Yeah.
And if there's a have to, I'm fucking annoyed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're a generator, right? In human design. And so as generators, we don't like have tos. They're not, when it's not in alignment for us and we don't get to respond to it, because the way that we come to things when we're generators, and that's human design for people don't know what that is. I'm going to do a whole episode on that because I'm obsessed with human design, how we can use it for strategy, for choices that we make. that are in alignment with how our natural way of being is, not our natural way of being, and then the having. All those things get easier. That's the clarity, courage, and confidence. So for you, this piece to me has something, there's some desire that you have that you're either not clear on, there's a block to, or you maybe just don't even know there's something else present. So how's that land? What's up?
It's interesting. What like comes to mind is like, I had this book I've been working on.
That's right. I
had a coach. He was helping me. And then I stopped when my brother died. And now I've started picking it up again here and there, but it's like this like thing. I've literally I found the plot for it in 2012 that I wrote down. So like or 2010. So I've been working on this thing forever and it's not even done yet. And so there's been this part of me that gets like, it's embarrassing to admit, like I get resentful that I have to go to work and I'm not even making any money right now because things have been so challenging. So I'm like, I'm not even doing that. Like, and I don't get to write my book. When I hear myself say this, I'm like, gross. Like, I know what to do. I know, get up a little earlier, don't scroll, don't whatever. And I can get it done. But it's like, it's just what came up for me when you were talking. I was like, I have this idea that either I can be this really successful businesswoman and have, a good, like, do that, or I can write a book, and I can't do both. And it's been this thing in my head for a long time. And so right now, I suppose if I really dig down, I've been like, well, like my sales are falling apart. I should at least be writing my book. And I'm not even getting to that. So there's just all this like tension, judgment, shame even. So
perfect. This is perfect. So I'm glad that we went around in this way to get to this point, because the truth is there's plenty of people that have full-time jobs and write books.
Yes.
So what is it about the book that scares you?
I have this part of it is the ego. I'm like, oh, I'm 42. I should have done this like 20 years ago. Like that's when all the good writers got their start, was in their 20s. And here I am, like,
that's 100% not true.
I've read all the things, but it's the voice in my head. And then I would say in the past, I'm less afraid now. I'm like, oh, it's pretty personal. There's a lot in it that, even though it's fiction, that's like not fiction, and then I think it's just become this thing, this like, that I'm just used to having, like, oh, the book, I should be working on my book right now. So then I was like, well, you don't have to write it. But when I was like, but I have to, like, I must, like, I'm like, and it feels like this thing that I really desire.
Where do you feel it in your body? The book, the desire for the book. Where do you feel that? Close your eyes. And just
like right here.
Your heart.
Right.
And intuitively, just what do you know about the book when it comes out? When you write it the way you want, you said you have an idea. So anyone that has an idea means we've seen it to completion. What have you seen?
I can't believe I think it's just kind of a something that other people would know, like they're not the only ones, like they're not alone. And they're not crazy, and there's a way through.
So the part that's talking is the one that has a deep desire. Do you get that? It's in your DNA. And the flip side of that coin is the other part that's all full of the shame and the shoulds and what'll happen if, and what if someone reads that and thinks it's them, like in my family. Is that accurate? Of course.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same. I'm in that boat with that piece, right? Waiting for someone to not be on the earth so I can write it. It's like, right?
That's I realized that I was doing that, and then I was like, oh, okay,
So what, am I going to be
I
90
don't,
and then I'm going to fucking write
right. And
it?
I was like, and I don't even know that that's a true thing, that would be upsetting to like that. I'm like, that's
100,
okay.
because it's the part that has the deepest desire to bring that into the world is your soul's calling, Sarah. Not everyone has it the same way. We all have something, it might be similar, but your desire is just for you. That is God's gift to you, that you share that story. Everyone has a story. Every single human could write a book, but most of us
Mm-hmm.
don't. And the reason is that we let that competing intention or that block, the shame and the judgment and all that shit be the one that rules, be the one, that's the one that's making the choices. And if you think about
Mm-hmm.
that, it's like, that's just a young girl, a part of you that's really afraid for
Mm-hmm.
the blowback, for what if someone doesn't like it? What if someone, right? Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And so can you just love her up, right? Because it's always, right, in this type of challenge, awareness, acceptance without judgment, aware of what's going on, which we're bringing it to the surface, just awareness of all the different pieces of you that are showing up in this space. Because it's really not
Mm-hmm.
about fucking real estate or rentals. It's really not. There's a part of every human. This is my belief. We are so fucking creative and we squish it, right? We squish it. Business is very creative. I'm not shocked that you're a business person. Every one of my clients are very creative. Everyone's creative. And some people just bury it so deep and but it's fucking angsty. That's what it is. It's like teen angst all the time till you die if you don't do something creative. You don't have to, you
Yeah.
don't have to make $1 million. You don't have to make $1, but it gives that part of us an outlet. So you
Mm-hmm.
here's what I'll say. You could write the book and never put it out, but would that be enough for you? Yes or no?
No.
So do you see how clear that is? You have
Yeah.
so much clarity. The only reason, so here's what I said in that episode. That's episode 2 for anyone that's listening to this episode. Episode 2, if you go back and listen to it, is called Clarity, Courage, and Confidence. Most people know exactly what they want, but the other parts that are running the show muck it up, and they throw up all these blankies and windscreens and right smoke so that you really can't see. So this is us just kind of clearing all that away, because the truth is that was a clear no, I can write it, and no, it's not going to just sit on my desk. It needs to
Mm-hmm.
go somewhere. Accurate?
Mm-hmm. Accurate. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no
There's
doubt.
no
See
like,
how
I'm not sure.
so
Yeah.
right, so
It's
you're so crystal clear about that. And so that's the awareness of what's going on. The acceptance without judgment means that you get to accept right now how it is, and the part of you that's really afraid without, because when when we're shaming ourselves, you're judging that young girl that's fucking scared. Would you judge your daughter for
mm-hmm.
being scared?
No,
No, never. I would never.
never.
My granddaughter is same age as your daughter, and I would never judge her for being scared. I would kneel down and say, "Hey, it's okay, baby girl. Nana's got
Yeah.
you, right? You're good.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be afraid." That's the thing, is people don't want to be afraid. And
Mm-hmm.
excitement and fear are kind of two sides of the same coin. And we think when we're excited, like you're excited about the book, a lot of times we get excitement and fear confused, because we're
Yeah.
so used to just kind of living in survival mechanism, scarcity, lack,
Mm-hmm.
fear mode, that we don't realize
Mm-hmm.
when we're excited. Yeah, it's a little scary. It's uncertainty. That's what we need, some variety. That's why we get excited. We're like, ooh, what's going to happen? What will happen if it was a bestseller? Like, that would be cool, right? Would that be cool?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. That would be
Yeah.
amazing. That would be
So,
my, yeah.
and your whole demeanor, your face lit up when I said, would it be okay if you wrote it and didn't publish it? And you said, no. And do you see the difference in the energy, how powerful it is? It's a no,
Yeah.
it's a knowing in your bones. This is the body
Mm-hmm.
temple sharing with you as a generator. It's in alignment for me.
Mm-hmm.
And now the response from you to do that or not do that, you can not do that. You can choose not to and follow the fear path. And I'm telling you, you'll always have a thread of upset in this piece for you, because
Okay.
you're not following your own response to something you actually want.
Right.
So the truth is, you've got this awareness without judging the young one. And then this is your opportunity to love her up and let her know it's okay. We're okay. We can write for 5 minutes and we could just stare at the paper and put the pen down. Baby steps. Baby steps. And then step 3, as you know, I'm always awareness, acceptance without judgment, aligned action. That's the aligned action. Yes. What is the baby step? Like, here's your homework. I want you to give yourself one baby step a day. And I'm going to say it's required that it's different. And it's for 7 days straight. So each one, because I see your smile, so it's already fun, because you see, this is playful for you and that young part of you as well. She's just afraid. You're this resourced, wise woman sitting in front of me gets to reparent that young girl that's afraid to do something new, because is it true that she got judged, shamed, and literally like, yeah, right, when you were young?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
These were not things that were nurtured in you as a child. Is that accurate? I know I've known you for a long time and coached you for many years. Is that accurate?
It is accurate.
So you can see that young part of you still like, hey, she doesn't have the words. So she's just like, no, we don't have time. It's easy to do that because we all can say time. There's always some easy tacks we can throw in the road.
Right. Everyone's like, oh yeah, time. Yeah, of course. There's the practical part of my brain that's like, well, if there's only a certain amount of time a day, I should do all of that lead generating and trying to get more business so that I can have savings and be able to pay my bills and blah, blah, blah. Like, who do you think you are to, like, you know, that time you spend writing, you could be as if every hour I'm just like making calls.
Oh yeah, all day. You get up and you're just like, watch this, bitches. I'm just on the phone.
Like 12 hours a day. Yeah.
12 hours a day. I lead gen and that's all I do, which is not true. No agent does that. I mean, maybe some do, but none of my clients do that.
Not me. I do 2 hours a day. But
most of my most successful, all of them do about 2 hours a day, because then you're obviously taking care of clients, listings, by all the things. You know, there's other things besides lead gen, and lead gen is 2 hours a day is kind of the minimum. And I mean, 4 hours, that's a lot. And it kind of drains the energy. If you're going to, here's what I will say for anyone on here that is an agent, splitting it up. What do you think about, if you're going to do longer sessions, do you like splitting it up? What would you suggest?
Yeah. I split it up, but like take a walk or something.
Yeah.
I have a daily goal. Okay. I have to have this many voice to voice. And we've figured out, in order to meet our, like, we just have a number, like back into like real estate world, in order to meet our goals for 2024, we each have to have 35 voice to voice every week. So like last week, my daughter had Friday off and I was like, I'm not going to get childcare for her. I'm going to do it all in 4 days instead of 5 days. So
did you do it? Did you do 35?
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, I did 42 actually. I was on a roll.
Of course you did.
So
you're Sarah.
Yeah. So I know that if I do these certain things, even with a tough market,
when I do these certain
things. When I do. Yeah. I know when I do. Yep. We have the numbers to show that. So yes.
Right. So what you just said with clarity and evidence from last week that you did 42, when we do this, when we do 35, we do what happens when you do 35?
We know that we set a certain amount of appointments, which leads to a certain amount of
so you've got it all planned out.
Which blah blah blah. Yeah. Yep.
So you just gave yourself your own prescription for when I do this, this happens in my business.
I also just realized I just gave myself a day off because
Friday
I did it all in 4 days. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, this is so funny. I love this. This is great. This is the easiest coaching call I've had in a long time. You just led yourself right into that one. So when I do 35, then our business does X, X, Y, Z, and we make a certain amount, and it's enough, right? It's enough, which enough is a very relative term for every human.
Yes.
Because it's always enough. So you make a certain number that is required in your business for sustainability. So you're not going to go broke. So do you see that the part of you that's afraid, it has really nothing to do with the other stuff. It's just finding different evidences for you. And it will pull, when we're afraid and we're in an unconscious, look at you, you're like, oh yeah, shit. Oh, I like that one. Good one, Rita. Good one. So when we're afraid, that I know we have to laugh at ourselves. That's why we're fucking
Right?
funny.
Yeah.
Humans, we're so silly.
Yeah.
When we're in an unconscious piece, like when you left me the voicemail last week, and when you were talking, I was thinking this has nothing to do with real estate. I knew right from your energy because it was an upset about somebody saying something or a phone call. And I thought, okay, this is because internally there's a misunderstanding. And the misunderstanding was all these other things mean, well, I'll put it this way. There's a misidentification with what your perception was for real estate because we need something to assign our upset to. So you went to the burdens because burdens are actually holding you back from writing the book. Because the truth is the deeper desire that all the parts of you have is to be creative. And here's what you've said it more than once. Have fun. Each iteration that you've talked about, it's fun, income, flexibility, people, and all of those things. And for some reason, that part of you, when it comes to the book, it has so much energy around what could happen afterwards. There's the block. Do you see that? But truly, is it fun for you to write it? Do you like dreaming and coming up with the ideas? Is that fun?
I love it. Yeah.
So it meets one of your highest, it meets one of your highest criteria, which what you've stated every single time has been fun, first or second. So that means that something needs to be there in those pieces. That's why it's an alignment for you, because that's part of your value system, whether you know it or not.
It does. Well, yeah, I'm an Enneagram 7, so I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
My sevens like to do all the things. They love all the things.
And it has to be, but I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I did not realize that I was saying that or doing that, but I'm like, oh yeah, if it's not fun, then
right, you don't want to do it. So fun, flexibility, people, and income. So you've got all those very high on your values list. So for you, when it's out of alignment for you, it won't have those things. And so now you don't have 200 doors to drive around, because what you thought you would be doing for fun was looking at garbage cans and doors, which is the first time I've heard that. So you are unique in that. I have to say, most people have some other ideas, but it's you, Sarah. So of course you have to be unique. That's one of your things. So, and maybe it's not as fun as you thought. It does hit the other items on that list, which was passive income and growing your wealth, which it's done. So because each one, you said initially, I asked you, you said it did hit fun, it did hit passive income, and it did grow your wealth. So those were your three criteria for doing that. So it's done that. And maybe it's outlived its usefulness. Maybe it's outlived the excitement or the fun factor for you, because the mind is going to the quote unquote burden. The mind will go to the burden when it's not happy about other things as well. Maybe it's not happy about that. I'm not saying you have to be 100%, let's say that, on the scale of 1 to 10, satisfaction factor for your rentals, what would you say that is? Scale of 10 being the highest, like it's fucking awesome. What number would it be?
7. So it's not.
Yeah. So 7's
like as low as I thought.
Exactly. So it may not be hitting as much fun, but it's also because your perception of it now is the mind is going to the future. Well, as you know, future and past thinking just get us it's just mind fuckery. It's literally, that's what it is. So it's going into the future. And yes, leaders you're pre-paving, or you're looking to the future to see possible roadblocks or obstacles or challenges that could come up to sort of head them off at the past. But when you're doing it to look at everything that could go wrong, I mean, that's like a nightmare. That's not even a fantasy. That's just a plain old nightmare.
Right.
Because our minds can find evidence for everything going wrong.
Yeah. You
could also find evidence for what could go right. Like, man, the market in 2025 is going to go through the roof, and we're going to sell all that, and we're going to make $1 billion or whatever. Do you see what I mean? But most people don't focus on the positive. They focus on the negative. But just the mind is sort of set up to do that for humans. Yeah. I think it's like a survival tactic, literally.
I think what's been a shift for me that's been a challenge has been in the past, and is that almost always, not always because you've coached me, but I'll see the future and I'm like, it's going to be positive. And then since my brother died, I'm like, well, I could get another phone call. Like I could get another
Right.
whatever, and like my
Right.
world could fall apart at any moment.
Exactly.
And so but it's like, well, on the opposite flip side too is like, well, I could also get the call that changes my life for the better. So acting like, it's just been interesting
Yeah. It's
to be like, oh, this is how this is how some people view the world. They see all the bad things that could happen, and that has been a challenge for me because it's not
since
fun
then,
to think that.
right. It's not fun. And so that's what I mean for you. Fun is part of your value system. And for
Yeah,
this not to be fun this year, obviously, no one's going to say it's fun to lose a sibling like that at all.
right.
But that it's very tragic, very sudden. It's not
Yeah,
fun. What happens
yeah.
is that like I said, you shift internally. So then, like, it took a couple weeks for me to come back to like, okay, how am I going to coach people if I think that was an accident and that shouldn't have? And here I went down that lane.
Yeah.
It took like 2 solid weeks, and I still was grieving and angry and all the things, but my perspective shifted back to, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to allow what the lessons are here, because I as me, of how I live my life, it's who I am. This is how I live this way of being, spiritually, behaviorally, mentally, all the alleys, all the mentally, everything, is that this is a benevolent universe. Things are not happening to me. They're happening not only for me, they're happening by me. And just the awareness of who I am is just, and I've been to that dimension in my breath work and in my meditations. It's just me. They're just this soul that's come in to have this purpose in this world. So if I stayed there, I would be in that everything is happening to me. And I didn't live my life like that for so long. That wasn't going to shift it. I couldn't do it 2 weeks. And so after that, I just allowed it to come in of what good can come of this, because I still couldn't see that. And I thought, oh, it's okay not to see the good yet, because I'm hurting. And I just allowed different things to show up in my life, and I would just write them down. And some of them were really challenging. And one of them, the biggest one, was he came in as unconditional loving, and no one, I mean fucking no one in my family saw it and they didn't see it after he was gone either, but I did. And I started to track. I started interviewing everyone in the family. This is kind of an aside, but I hope this helps for people that have had anyone in your life commit suicide, and for you as well on this call, Sarah. What I tracked was that I interviewed my kids, my nieces, nephews, and other people in the family. And do you know that he had never said an insult to them? Because, people tease like, oh, look at you, oh, your teeth, or, let's say an aunt or an uncle or someone. Ever. All he ever did for all of his nieces and nephews was build them up and tell them how great they were, bring them the funniest gifts. He put a knife and mace in my daughter's car when she got her first job, because she's so tiny. I was like, we didn't know there was a big giant knife in the glove box. No, we're like, oh my God, and mace. She probably would have hit herself in the face with it. But he always was this protector. And then when I thought back, he always like, oh, Reed, you're so smart. Everything was, oh, you just such a good mom. But because he was an alcoholic, all we saw were these funky behaviors. And we couldn't see through that because we were all in codependent relationships. It was this extreme dysfunctional family. That's why my first episode, I did meet the host so people could see, like, you're not alone. A lot of people fucking grow up like this, and it's not your fault. It's what happened. And then we get to heal and shift it, which is what, when you came into my coaching, what you've been doing. And you've done an amazing job shifting and healing internally for yourself, Sarah. So that piece about this perspective shift, you can see, is that as long as you see the world through that lens of burden and negative, well, I could get that phone call, and every single moment, a miracle can happen every moment. And they do.
Yeah.
But when we're looking for disaster, that's usually what we see. I never get a parking spot. No, that never happens. That's why I didn't get it, because it's me. That's what happens. It's me. So when we see that, when we see the world through that lens, that's our energetic resonance. And resonance just means that anything that resides on the same frequency is going to be attracted to you. Negative things. So this, for you could see this shift. It's not just perspective, it's energetically in who you're being, and just what's in alignment for you. And this is just feels like a big set of curtains that you're just opening, like, oh, I just forgot. That's all. There's no judgment. I
Mhm.
just forgot. And we
Mhm.
forget sometimes. And then we have someone show up on our path that reminds us. You know how I
Mhm.
say hyphen mind. It's reminding myself, because my mind will go negative, and then I get to remind myself. It's the reprogramming. Like, wait a second, pattern interrupt. I'm doing it again. And so this,
Mhm.
coaching you all these years, this for me with you is just, how do I say it? Like it's a different shift because of what happened, because it's so easy to just go back to that bam negative, because it's so prolific and tragic that it's easy to do that and be unconscious about it. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. And I will say everyone will support me in that, like, because how
Meaning
do I
what?
say
Support
this?
you in looking at it through a darker
If
lens?
yes, I
Of
mean,
course.
this is not
Yeah.
judgment on someone else. I'm
No,
just
no.
saying, because if
Yeah.
someone came to me and said, "Hey, I'm sad," I wouldn't be like, "Oh, it sounds like you're wallowing." I would be like, "Oh gosh, that sucks." I'm just saying, if I were to, I've been very aware of the fact that I could use this tragedy as something to just kind of stay in this spot. And when I'm
Yes.
unconscious, I definitely
Because you're
go there.
justified,
Like
right?
last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Because no one's gonna be like, dude, lighten up a little bit. It's just your brother. Or so, like, which is
Right.
not what we're saying. That's very black and white thinking. Either like I'm wallowing or I'm like, I don't care, which is something that I dealt with, right? Like, oh, is it okay for me to like
Is it okay for me
well
to
back?
have fun and be happy and be joyful
Yes.
and be rich and be successful? This is all the things all
Mhm.
year that, do I have permission?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have fucking permission to be
Yeah.
human, to be human
Mhm.
and have all the good things. Just because someone left doesn't mean we stop living. That's not paying homage to them
Right. Right.
ever.
And as my counselor was like, I mean, and I know that people say this, but my counselor was like, your brother would not want you. I mean, he wouldn't be like, oh yeah, please just like be in the mud every day for the rest of your life. Like,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
but
So,
yeah.
so you can see that the shift comes from somatically in the body. Like the shift is like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
there's an awareness, and then there's a relaxing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's how you look
Yeah.
now. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you can take a deep breath, like, oh, thank God, because I thought there was really fucking something wrong.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely nothing's changed in the external world while we've been having this conversation. Everything starts from that right there, that relaxation, that like knowing, like, oh, and it's not a, I hope so, or I wish it was better. I hope it gets better. It's a knowing, like, oh, I just have been looking at it through a darker lens. I went a little unconscious. So no
Yeah.
judgment, right? No judgment.
Right.
And now coming back to the book and the real estate and the rentals, is it something that you still want to do, the real estate and the rentals? At least right now. We're
Yes.
just in a
In
season.
this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, in this
Yeah.
moment,
In
maybe
this
not
season.
in
Yeah.
a year or 2 years or 5 years or five
Yeah.
days, but right now, does that feel burdensome?
Yeah. No, I can go do it. I'm like, okay, it does hit these things. Like it just doesn't feel as much of a burden, I suppose. Like I'm like, if someone were to say, commit for the next year, I'd be like, oh yeah, no problem. I'm happy to do that. Whereas when this call started, before it started, I told Trevor, I'm giving it 3 months and then I'm out.
I love how
Not out of
dramatic you
the
are.
marriage,
Not the marriage, Trevor, the business.
the business. And we've been together 17 years. So he was like, I support you.
Oh,
That's cool.
he's
So
probably like, okay, what is it today? Oh, today we're out in 3 months. Okay, got it. You're writing it down. I'm going to write this down. I'm going to write it on my calendar.
I did write it down. So he knows.
Oh, I love that. I wrote it down, so it's
Yeah.
real. It's happening. It's totally
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
So saying that, so let's go back to the book. And can you see doing something each day, something small? It could be
Yes.
writing something at the top of a piece of paper, like
Mhm.
turning your computer
Yeah.
on and finding the best. I don't know what app you're using. What app are you using? Are you using an app to write it? Or Word?
Google Docs.
Oh, just Google Docs. Oh, I love Google Docs.
Yeah.
It's better than Word because it autocorrects for me, which I like.
And it saves
and it saves,
yeah.
and I don't have to worry, and I don't have to try and save it as it just goes and saves. So you're writing it in Google Docs. So what is so let's go back to just before we wrap. What we're going to do is we're going to say, for you, I want you to write down the top 3 that you've said throughout this conversation. For you, values wise: fun, income. Now you can pick flexibility, because I feel like people go in the fun category for you. Because
Yes.
you love people so much. You're a huge connector. You love connection. And so I'm going to say what I heard was fun, income, and flexibility. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And
That
you
is
can add
accurate.
or delete, but just fun and income are definitely in your top 3.
Yeah.
And so as a generator, we want to do things, and we want to respond to things. Doesn't mean it's not like we're waiting to be asked, but I'll say you're responding. So even to your own, when something's in alignment for you and and then you respond with the mind, because your mind is so strong, you're very intelligent, you have a lot of wisdom, insight, and experience in the world. So what happens is the mind gets very active, right? It's very active, and it thinks up all these scenarios. So the mind can actually talk you out of what's in alignment for you, like the book. So anytime you hear your mind arguing for its own limitations, which is what it does, you could just say like, no, this is in alignment. We're going to write for 15 minutes this morning while we're drinking coffee. Because maybe while you're drinking coffee, you load the dishwasher. Well, instead, you can write for 15 minutes, even if it's crap. You can write down, this is crap, and that's how I started a chapter, because I couldn't start. I was like, this is crap. I should be vacuuming, because the cat, I don't know what he did out there. He like drug something around. He dug out dirt, and I started laughing and had the best. It became a prompt. And I thought, well, what would my character do if the cat dug dirt out into the carpet and she was going to get blamed? And it was so funny. And I wrote for like an hour. It's like, oh shit, I got to actually get on a coaching call. But I had fun. I was lit up. I was turned on, tuned in. I was like, it was so awesome. I was in flow. I forgot what time it was, but it was and it sparked something in me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could get up just 15 minutes or just make my coaching call start an hour late. Do you see what I mean? Because we have flexibility. It's why we own businesses. We're creative. So allow that to percolate, Sarah. Allow that to have some space inside of you, because the mind will argue for its own limitations and stuff it into a corner and say, stay over there. And that's what it's been doing.
Totally. Okay.
And that young part of you is used to very much turning down her own volume.
Yes.
Being silent, getting at the back of the line, like you said, in one of our groups. I'm like, oh, I'll stand in the back. Like, that's where I belong, is at the end, right? So think about it from her perspective. She's so used to that. That's her neural pathway, is just to go there. Well, no, that's just me. That's what I'm going to do. So you get to feel like, no, we're not. We're gonna write for just 15 minutes, and then she gets to get excited. And I would go outside or laugh or do something funny right before and engage her, because she is probably the one that's driving a lot of the topics in that book. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yes.
Yeah. It's super fun.
It's her story.
Yeah. It's very playful. It's fun. They get to tell their story. They'll be poignant and sad and happy. And that's it's playfulness. That's what children bring. As you know, you have is she 7 right now? 6. That's right.
Almost
She's
7.
Remy's same age as Remy, my granddaughter. So they're very playful. They're silly. They're funny. They say the funniest stuff, right? Just their observations are funny. The way they say things. So that's that part of you as well, and allow her to have that full expression.
Okay. I love it.
Okay. So your homework, right? What's your homework? Restate.
My homework is to do one baby step a day for the next 7 days, and each day has to be different.
Yep. And that's going to cause some, what's today? It could be starting with page 50. You make it up. You just say it's page 50. I mean, it doesn't have to be, it's not to throw a roadblock that each day has to be different. We're doing that so that you can kind of wake up the party for her to get engaged creatively. And I would ask, hey, what could we do different today? You might ask that the night before, and then you'll wake up like, oh, we're going to hop on one foot before we start. Got it. I mean, it might be something that silly. It doesn't have to be, you're going to finish the ending or the big, you know what I mean? It's not like that.
Right.
Okay. I'm just engaging her because I think it would be fun, because you could have said fun. And I think that would be fun to do it like that. So make it fun, not like it's, I said has to, but in a fun way. Fun.
Must be fun.
Must be fun. Okay. So how does all this landing kind of, where are you at? How are you feeling? Tell me what's up.
I'm feeling a lot better, like less existential in my head. Like what's the meaning of life that I've been dealing with the last few days,
Mhm.
and more just like, oh, okay, I can go help people with real estate. Like it kind of reminded me of why I am doing it, which is that I get to be around people,
Mhm.
and it's fun. I've been getting caught up in the burden aspect of it.
Yeah.
Jury's still out on rentals, but
Yeah.
we will figure that's not, nothing's on fire. Nothing needs to be solved today. It's
Mhm.
just feels like, oh, okay, I've been taking this all very seriously.
Yeah.
Like,
The mind likes to create
yeah,
big, giant scenarios and what ifs and all the big drama
yeah,
and truly living in the drama triangle. And so in your mind, when you're living in that drama triangle and it's all the things and all the things that can happen, what happens is it's fucking exhausting emotionally, mentally, physically, it's exhausting. And then what happens, it
right,
colors how we look at everything else. And so then everything
yeah,
else gets put in the same drama triangle.
right,
Yeah.
yes,
And so everything doesn't have to work out all the time. And for everyone listening, it's okay to not be okay sometimes. Like I think we all need permission to, like, some days are just not that fucking great. That's okay.
yeah,
But we don't need to go down the dumper and stay there forever because we had a bad
right,
day or a bad whatever. And when I say bad
yeah,
day, it could be a myriad of things. So for this piece about the rentals, is that can be TBD, right? TBD.
yeah,
And you
hmm,
could just, you and Trevor can actually have positive, uplifting talks, like something completely that are what would look like, what would we want? What would we want it, getting clear? What will we want it to look like? What would be an alignment for us in this
yes,
season of our life? Well, next year, I think we'll get rid of that one because that one's this, or get one in another state,
hmm,
whatever. Do you see? Because you can also do out of
right,
state rentals, right?
hmm,
Investments.
right,
So there's other ways to invest to get passive income. You don't have to do it that one specific way. And so this
right,
may be the way for you to have fun and have passive income may look different. And so just like, wow, another opportunity to get creative.
right,
See, so
yes,
all of this gets to go from burden, which is the bully or the persecutor in the drama triangle, to this is kind
oh,
of challenging,
yes,
and that because that's how you've held it, right? It's the circumstance it's the persecuting circumstance in your life creating
yeah,
this burden. I'm the victim of that.
yeah,
And you get to move
yes,
that to the challenge. This is challenging right now because it's not really in alignment. I'm not having a lot of fun. Seems like I could go
yeah,
south if someone wants to fucking squat. We're stuck. I don't want to do that. So what's the opportunity here spiritually to grow and expand? How can we look at
hmm,
this, get
well, I like that,
support,
yeah,
how can we get support? How can we get coaching? How can we get other people that know this investment business better than we do? Do you see what I mean? And you start growing it that way, then you're like, oh, we could sell this or that and do this. So do you see that it's an opportunity to be creative and actually have fun
yeah,
creating passive income that lights you up?
right, yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
hmm,
love that. Okay, so
yeah.
you have homework for the book, and then
Homework, okay,
I'm going to give you homework for the real estate because it's me. If I don't give you
okay,
homework, it's not really
yes,
my coaching,
I know,
as you
right,
as
yeah,
you know.
okay,
So for the real estate, really looking at everything with this shift, positive, and the
hmm,
perspective is looking at every single person, because I know you had left a message that said a lot of things were going south, deals were falling out, which I'm hearing from
hmm,
many agents, not just you.
yeah,
Things are falling out.
yes,
I mean, literally, there was a lady at the marketing meeting that it fell out the day of, the night before it was closing. And she stood up
yeah,
and she's like,
I
well, it's
pretty much
back
had
on.
one like that too.
Yep. She's like, it's back on the market. And everyone was like, no. And it's happening. And so looking
Yeah,
looking at it as this market is requiring us as agents to step up and show up in a completely just, this is boss mode right now. This is completely like, okay, that happened. Here's my pivot. Here's what I'm doing, instead of taking it personally. And yeah, it stings, of course. And it's not the end of the world. So your homework for that
yes,
is to shift that perspective. And every single person that, if it's a list or a buyer, that you see it as everything, you just see it and hold it, that deal is miraculously, energetically going through for the highest good of all concerned. Everything is happening for the highest good. And you, high commitment, low attachment to the outcome. You're so committed for it,
Yes.
everyone to get their needs met in this real estate transaction, meaning the highest good for all concerned. And you're so committed to showing up as a pro, which you are, and you know exactly how to do that. And that's not getting personally offended at all. High commitment, low attachment to the outcome. Now we want the outcome, we want it to close, but a high commitment, and you know what commitment means? Results are the proof of your commitments. So when you have a high commitment and a low attachment to the outcome, your results will show, even if, which is not my favorite word, even if it was to fall through. You're so committed to the outcome of that home selling, the next buyer shows up. Do you see what I mean? That's the opportunity for magic and miracles. That's manifestation at its highest. You hold for it no matter what. And maybe the sellers have a block. I've coached someone through that. I went, do your sellers have a block? And she's like, now that you say it, I don't think the husband wants to sell. And so it fell through 5 times. I said, I'm going to give you a script. Go back with this conversation and ask him these questions. And he didn't want to sell it. He said, actually, I don't. She does. So do you see, it could not have anything to do with you.
Right. Yes.
So
and I was making, and I knew it last week too. I was like, I'm making all of this, and my husband was reminding me too, like, you're making us all say something about you. This is what it is. But I'm like,
exactly. So it could be a block on their side. Yep. So when we make
which it did turn out to be multiple of the things that happened. It was all blocks, and one deal was able to be saved, one wasn't. It's all, but I was able to look at it and be like, oh, this is not my skill or lack of skill. This is something else.
Has nothing to do with your skill. And sometimes it might, maybe we miss something. Okay, human, hi, human showing up.
Right.
And then we get to course correct and pivot, correct, do all the things to make sure that it's taken care of that time or the next time. So for this and this coaching and this session is your opportunity is to start seeing yourself as the pro, and everything that happens, there's an opportunity to see it at its highest, meaning as a pro and as this spiritual being, how you show up, Sarah, as your human, and all the coaching you have the skills and tools to show up to every deal like this. And sometimes we just forget. That's all. Sometimes we just forget. So you just needed a little pivot. You needed a little Rita course correct.
I did. Yes. All right. I have 2 pages of notes. This is good.
Yes, this is so good. So how are you now? Where are you at? Tell everyone how you're feeling.
A lot more calm. I just feel like less angsty.
I know, angsty.
Like, okay, I'll go do my lead generation now, and it'll be great. Like, just kind of like it is, just figure out, looking forward to my writing homework, being like, okay, I'm not too old. I'm not.
Oh my God, you're so
whatever's
funny.
in my head.
I'm probably like 15 years older than you. And I read a thing about, because we look for evidence to justify our fears. That's what the mind does.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, I'm not 22, so I'm out.
As if I could have written that book. That's what I was like. There's no way I could have even written this book 5 years ago. So
no, exactly. I was so unconscious in my 20s. The only thing I could write was a check. I was like, woo, I'm buying something. It's like, what the heck? Who does that? So I love this. Okay, so you have so much homework, and then we'll check in. Let's check in like next week. You can just Voxer me, or let's just check in. And so for the podcast, I just want to say thank you for coming on, being so brave, and really, letting other women hear and see that, we can be as fucked up as long as well, let me put it this way. We can grow up in a very dysfunctional home. Has nothing to do with us. We didn't do anything wrong. Our soul came in for whatever reason to have that experience. It's an experience and it happened. Not condoning it. I don't ever do that. And then we make things mean about us. We get a core belief and all these other things. And then we get to, I call it the great undoing. And that usually happens in our 30s. We start to like, shit ain't working. I need some support. Like I said in the first episode. And that's when most of my clients show up in their early to mid 30s and then up. And that's exactly how you've tracked. And it just means that your soul is here to heal that stuff and be a light for other people. otherwise you wouldn't have said yes to being coached on air today. So I just want to say thank you for showing women and anyone else, any man or woman, whoever's watching this, that, shit happens and we get to be the ones to say how our lives go. We get to co-create with God and spirit, universe, whatever people call it. And it can be really special and really beautiful, or it can be drudgery and misery. It all depends on how I'm showing up for it. So thank you. I love you. Say hello to Trevor.
Love you too. Thank you. I will.
And let's check in next week.
Okay.
All right.
I will do
All right,
that.
babe.
Let you know how my homework went.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good day. Bye, Sarah.
Too. Bye.